20. Our center in Brisbane. Sorry. Swami there was just starting a meditation first session. Asked me to start with guided meditation. I told him I'm not, but I could give. Originally, it was only 20 minutes long. When you think about it, type of thing, meditation, according to the way normally get instructed. Our devotees there from Washington said that it's very helpful, old timers. ABC. So I'm going to go through some of the very basic elements of, and these are things that we all know, but it's good for review, good to challenge ourselves to understand things a new way or a deeper way. So I think for everybody, I hope you'll find it helpful. It was helpful for me. Go back and ponder over some elements and practice of why it's so, what exactly we're doing in meditation. So I want to go through some of these things. One thing that before I start, I just would like to emphasize that to me, the most important aspect of meditation, try to understand it not as a mental exercise. Of course, can be helpful if you take it that way, but a real chance, face to face with that ultimate, not just body and mind, and will understand the nature of the self through analyzing the process of understand who is meditating on whom. Exactly is going on in this process. Get some insight into the self, the nature, who is witness. All of these questions, they can even be pondered at the time. But think of meditation just as mental activity, mental exercise. Won't get the full advantage, opportunity in terms of who is it that real nature, questions like that. So what I'd like to do is break this down into a series of topics. The topics will be first, nama, name. Isha, place. Kala, time. Ila, find play. Tonight we'll go through the first three. Tomorrow, that's so. Some of the very important elements that we have of form, fix the mind on. Repetition. Visualization. And try to fix in a certain section, area of the body. Okay? And then the other three, we start to get into a little more of Lila aspect. Yeah, we'll get to that tomorrow. So we'll stick with these three right now, and then there'll be other topics that will come in. Basically, we'll start with this. Now I'm going to do Nama and Rupa a little bit combined together. two main elements of japa and meditation. One question that always comes up, ask, try to go through. So, name and form. As I said, there are all different types of meditation. Mindfulness, basically what most of us who are connected with Ramakrishna type of instructions that we get in meditation. So, these are the most important elements. Name will take the form of the mantra that we receive at the time of initiation, or that we can choose. If we haven't taken initiation, we can take the help of any mantra. There are certain traditions that are very free and open about this, that you can choose what you like. There are other traditions that say, no, it should be handed down from the guru to disciple. But in any event, we can say the mantra, and the form will be Ishta Devata. So these are the two elements, and of course combined, because the name of the Ishta Devata is normally included in the mantra. So very often we'll have Om will be first. Om is kind of universal. And there may be a Bija mantra that will be determined by the nature of the Ishta Devata, then the name of the form of God that we worship, and then maybe Namo Namaha, something else. But these are basic elements that we find. Now, this is kind of a devotional type of meditation, we can say, making use of some concept of personal God, or at least looking upon some divine manifestation as a helpful object of meditation for us. Now, one thing that we'll find is that many things that are considered to be obstacles or things to be eliminated on the path of knowledge turn out to be the most helpful things in the path of devotion. I'll give a couple of examples. That the sense of I and mine. This is for the jnani, that we have to get rid of this completely. We want to get rid of this sense of I and this sense of I am so-and-so and this belongs to me. The path of devotion, these are very, very important. I am a child of God. We have a relationship. I'm a child of God, a servant of God, something like that. And I feel that God is my very own. So we try to really strengthen that same attitude that we try to eliminate in the path of knowledge. So we'll find the same thing with Nama, Rupa. Traditionally, these are considered to be the superimpositions on Brahman, which make us fail to see the real nature of Brahman. That if we can eliminate name and form, then we can find that one common essence, that one real ultimate ground reality underlying everything that we can call Brahman. So we'll find, for example, this is a verse from Mundaka Upanishad. Yatha nadyaha syandamana samudre astam gachanti nama rupe vihaya. Tata vidwan nama rupad vimuktaha paratparam purusham upayati divyam. Just as rivers flowing become lost in an ocean, giving up both their name and form. So what distinguishes us from other people? Name and form. What distinguishes us from the divine? Name and form. So we give up all of these. Yeah. So the knower, freed from name and form, attains the bright Purusha, which is beyond the avyakta. So even beyond the imperishable absolute. So we need to transcend these. At the same time, we find them useful. Now, it sounds like a paradox, but this is what Ramakrishna calls this vidya maya. It falls within maya, but it's the thorn that removes the other thorn. So we have this thorn of ignorance. We take a second thorn, and we use it. Then we can get rid of it. So we can transcend name and form by taking the help, the aid of name and form. Specifically in this case, with regard to the mantra, we can say. So we find on devotional paths, name of God is considered to be according to some greater than God himself. And there's a story about Krishna and Rukmini, that there was a time when sometimes they'll make an offering of gold, the equivalent to a certain weight. And sometimes they'll take these big pans and the person will sit on it. And they'll keep piling money or food or something, rice, till it balances, and that'll be the amount that they'll give for an offering. So Krishna said, I'll do it. So he sat on one side of the pan, no matter how much they added to everything, that it was never enough to equal the weight of Krishna. Then Rukmini said, get rid of everything. And she wrote the name Krishna on a leaf, tulsi leaf, put it on the pan, and it was heavier than Krishna. Anyhow, these are stories just to show how important the name of God is in these devotional traditions, and how the name conjures up the reality. Even thought. It's very hard to think of something without using a word or giving a name to it. Yeah, a very simple thing, I'll tell you, that even human emotions. Suppose the first time that a young boy and a young girl, that some feeling of love comes, they won't know anything. They'll think, I don't know what it is. Every time I'm around this person, my heart starts beating. I don't really understand it. Somebody says, oh, you love her, something like that. Then, just hearing that word, then we say, okay, now I understand. So even just the emotion and the feeling of something, we put a word to it, a name to it, and it helps define it. So the use of the name is something that's very, very important in our tradition. Now, this mantra, as I say, some traditions, it's completely open. Anybody can choose it. There's no special initiation that takes place. It can be chanted out loud. We have our Hare Krishna mantra and other things. There's some that everybody knows, but you still have to take some initiation, say Gayatri mantra. And then this, what we usually call the tantric tradition. And don't get confused, it doesn't mean any esoteric type of thing. With the tantric tradition, it's something that is very sacred and secret. So we receive the mantra and we don't say it out loud in front of others, or we don't reveal it to other people, just because it's something very near and dear to our hearts. So this is the tradition that we have here. So when we make use of the mantra, it can be used two different ways, not terribly different. One we call japa, and the other we call dhyana, meditation. Okay. Now, in japa, we repeat the mantra silently. Some will do it moving their lips. But generally, if we're alone, it can be done very softly. But generally, they say the highest type is without moving the lips at all. So we repeat that, and with meditation, we add specifically trying to visualize the image of the Ishta Devata. So in meditation, now, there are different schools of thoughts on these things. I'll be very honest with you. I've heard very varying opinions. At the time of meditation, don't repeat your mantra, just do visualization. At the time of japa, don't do anything, concentrate on mantra. Generally, we hear better to combine them. So Holy Mother especially, she used to say that, mantra can be repeated throughout the day, can be repeated silently, and at the time of meditation, take the help of the mantra. And while repeating the mantra, if we can concentrate the mind and bring in this meditation element to it, then it's even better. Now, she was asked on different occasions, suppose we do it mechanically, just repeat the mantra, the mind is elsewhere and everything. And she used to say, yes, my child, there's still benefit in it. she would say, if you get pushed in the water or you jump in the water, result is the same, you get wet. But we know that there's a vast difference between doing something mechanically and doing something with love and devotion. So generally, we try to combine them now in japa. There may be more emphasis on hearing the mantra, repeating or hearing. Some people feel that it's going on and they're listening. Some people feel they're repeating it a little more, but still, we read in the Yoga Sutra that tad artha bhavana, tad japaha, tad artha bhava, that japa also includes meditating on the meaning, the artha, the meaning of the mantra. Now, many people will ask, what is the meaning of this mantra? Does it have some specific meaning? Generally, artha can just mean what is referenced by it. So if the mantra includes the name of Krishna, then the artha is Krishna himself. It doesn't have to be any deep philosophical teaching or anything like that. Now, we may overlay things when we repeat the mantra. We may feel that it's also a type of prayer. Every time we repeat it, that we feel we're praying, Mother, reveal yourself, or something like that, or grant me pure love and devotion. We may have that feeling. We may do japa as an offering. Each time we do it, it's a kind of offering. There's a very beautiful book by Swami Atmajnanananda, where he says, repeating the mantra, and especially with his mala, we're participating in the cosmic revolution of all the stars and the sun and the moon and everything. We're participating in that. So there are all different ways that we have of understanding this. But the meditation, the distinction will be perhaps that we don't care about the number. So really sometimes the only difference between japa and meditation is with the japa, we'll take the help of a mala, or we'll count on our fingers, and we'll keep track of a certain number. So when we receive initiation, we may be told, you repeat this a certain number of times. Mahapurush Maharaj, he used to say, if you find it distracting to use a mala or to use your hand, many people find it helpful. They really feel the mala becomes something sacred for them. But he says you can do it by the clock. That if you, he says that if you know that it takes 20 minutes to do your allotted japa, then you do it silently, and when 20 minutes is up, you can feel that you've fulfilled that obligation to do a japa at that time. So Holy Mother, as I say, she put great emphasis on trying to combine the two. So when we do our meditation, it's an anchor for us. The repetition of the mantra, it keeps the mind fixed. And when we try to visualize the Ishtadevata, then the whole mind gets absorbed in this process. Now, there's a fatal flaw in all of this, because we're told to do two things. One is very easy, the other is almost impossible. If we really analyze very, very carefully, we're told to repeat the mantra silently, and this anyone can do. This is a very simple thing that we can do it with all sorts of things. We can hear a tune silently within our minds. We can recite things. We can recite poems. We can do all sorts of things. And reciting this mantra and repeating it out loud are not very different. Not very different. We can even feel that we're repeating something with a tune. That we repeat something out loud, that we can do it with a certain accent, we can do it with a certain everything. We can duplicate that silently to ourselves very easily. So there's a japa. Nobody can say, no, I said I try to repeat the mantra and I can't do it. Anybody can do it. If you ask anybody, just count from 1 to 100. We can all do it. But if you tell somebody, try to visualize something and just watch that for more than 5 seconds. And then it disappears on us. If we really, so the point that I'm trying to make is that visualization, it sounds simple. We're told visualize the image of the Ishtadevata, and then as if we're painting it on the wall of our mind, and then we can simply watch it. But each second we have to redo it. Now, the difference is because our senses work in different ways. Our sense of hearing takes place in time. Everything is one thing after another. There's some temporality to that. So if we hear a song, we hear one note, then the next note, then the next note. This works very well internally just with the mind. When we see something, we see it all at once. Now, we may go from one side to the other side, but it's present there all at once. So in a sense, we can say that we see things in space and we hear things in time. Does that make sense to everybody? We see things in space and we hear things in time. Now, we go to a museum, of course, we can see a great painting and look from one side to the other, but the whole thing is present there all at once. The song is not present all at once. It's moment to moment to the moment, and everything has to, even if it is it's a symphony and there's a lot of different instruments playing, still it'll be moment to moment to moment like that. So we find, and many people, I'm making a big point about this because so many people say that I simply can't picture the image of the Ishtadevata. It's a very, very common thing for people to say, and very often they feel that it's easy for everybody else, but I can't do it. Now, what I've discovered, thinking about this, because I have trouble doing it, so I've thought about it a lot, that there's really a very solid metaphysical reason for this, because the senses work differently. So I came up with this image that hearing something, if you look at a waterfall, we can see that moment to moment, each and every drop falling. Now, trying to visualize, it's like trying to make a painting on that waterfall. Because the mind is constantly changing and moving. So we find that each second, if we get a glimpse, we can picture the face. We get a glimpse. Very next second, we have to recreate it. So with a japa, each time it's easy. The next time, the next syllable, next syllable, next syllable. So it becomes something that's very difficult. So I'm spending a lot of time making this point, so nobody should feel that, oh, what's wrong with me? I sit for meditation and I try to visualize and all sorts of things come into the mind. But visualization, it's a very poor word to use. That to think that we can just project an image internally, the mind doesn't work that way. In fact, I have a little experiment for everybody. Try to picture the face of a friend of yours with your eyes closed. Close your eyes for a second. Try to picture the face. How clearly can you see it? With what type of detail? Some image will come. Huh? Okay. Now open your eyes. Now try to visualize the same face with your eyes open. Almost the same. Huh? Almost the same. Because it's a thought. It's not really an image. It's really a thought. And I've come to this conclusion that trying to visualize something or imagine something is more trying to remember what it was like when we saw that. So if somebody says that try to feel like you're sitting in Sri Ramakrishna's room in meditation. Try to feel that. And we say, okay, I've done it many times before, so I'll sit and I'll do it. What we're really doing is we're remembering something that took place before and trying to bring it into the future. But it's mostly memory that way. So this is why most people have difficulty. Two exceptions, perhaps. Some people have a photographic memory. I don't know what that means exactly, but we hear that. They can really, as if they're seeing it. And the other is the mind goes to a higher level. That's a different thing. Then it can be done. That means that we've really made some great progress in it. And we have to try. It's not like I'm saying we simply give the whole thing up. I want to quote something, read something from Swami Atmajnanananda. Swami Atmajnananda was the 9th president of the Ramakrishna Order. He said, Through the repeated practice of japa and meditation, one's divine nature awakens. Japa is very easy. Okay, so we'll say that by japa it's repetition of the mantra. Not everyone can really meditate. So by meditation, we'll say it is visualization and keeping the mind from wandering. Everyone indeed can do japa, but it must come from the heart. So this is only meant to make us understand that we have to have a little different way of looking at this process of visualization. And one way that we can get around this difficulty, because we really can't see one thing all at once. Even now, every time we see something, other things are there in the background. So Swami Brahmananda, he gives some very nice advice. He says, first, try to visualize the feet, and then go try to visualize the hands, and go up, try to see the face, and then try to see the whole thing. So we're really mimicking what we do with the japa, moment to moment to moment, one thing after another, but keeping it within that same figure. But to see the whole figure, whether it's Ramakrishna or Holy Mother, Krishna, Ram, whatever it is, Christ, doesn't matter, that the mind simply doesn't work that way. It simply doesn't work that way. It becomes, I know there's a term in German psychology, Gestalt. It's kind of an idea. It's not exactly an idea, but we kind of grasp the essence of it, but not particularly seeing all the particular details and everything. This is something that happens when the mind reaches a very high type of state. You remember the Kalpataru day when Sri Ramakrishna touched the different disciples. The reminiscence of Ramlal is very helpful here. He says, I could formerly see a part only of the holy person of my chosen ideal with my mind's eye at the time of meditation. When I saw the lotus feet, I could not see the face. Again, perhaps I saw the person from face to the waist, but could not see the holy feet, and whatever I saw never seemed to be alive. But no sooner had the Master touched me that day than the form of my chosen ideal appeared suddenly from head to foot in the lotus of my heart, and moved and looked benign and effulgent. So these things are possible when the mind really goes to a very high state. Otherwise, if we're seeing the foot, that means we're only projecting the foot. It's just like in a dream. If this is in the waking state, we know that if I say a door, I know there's something behind it. If it's a dream, there's nothing behind it unless I dream it. If I open it, then I have to project something else there. The same thing with visualization, that it's not that we can project the image and just look at it. This is what I was saying in the very beginning. Now I want to go to, and we can, of course, have questions on these things afterwards, but I want to go to this idea of desha, place. Yeah. Now, when we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we'll find the question that's very often asked, that where, sir, shall we practice meditation? Where shall we do it? And generally, it doesn't mean, shall we do it in the shrine room? Shall we do it in a bedroom? It doesn't mean that. Now, sometimes Sri Ramakrishna, he says that meditation should be, he says, mone kone boni. He says, yeah, that you can do it just deep within yourself. You can go to a solitary place in the woods, or you can find a little corner of the room. But generally, the question means, where do we focus or where do we place the Ishta Devata? If we're trying to imagine, not the, so suppose we meditate in Sri Ramakrishna, and not just somewhere in the outer space, that we're trying to imagine seated within the heart. Seated within the heart, or There are other types of meditation. Sri Ramakrishna says that those who practice some type of Shiva yoga, they can meditate between the eyebrows or some on the top of the head. But in general, he says that the heart center is the best place in general. Danka Marajaiga. He said this is a place that beat the drums and blow the horns. It's a wonderful place to practice meditation. So if we're trying to visualize and feel the presence of the Ishtadevata, it is generally recommended that we try to feel within the heart center or within the cave, the cavity of the heart. Now, this is something that is particularly helpful for those of a devotional temperament. Sometimes the jnanis can do these other things. We're warned sometimes. There's one case we all know of Swami Atmajnanananda. At one period, he was half bedridden. He was very ill. He would do meditation and japa 18 hours a day. He would do 100,000, and he developed terrible headaches at one point. He went to all the direct disciples, and nobody could really figure out what the problem was. As soon as he went to Holy Mother, she said, "My child, where do you meditate?" And he said, "I meditate, I forget, top of the head or between the eyes." He said, "No, my child, meditate within the heart center." And as soon as he did that, then the headaches went away. So what does it mean? What does it mean to meditate within the heart center? On the one hand, it is a tactile thing. So far, we see we're using the senses, the sense of hearing, sense of seeing, now the sense of feeling. So from one point of view, we really can feel the heart center. We can feel it for two reasons. One, beating of the lungs, and two, the beating of the heart. So we feel the lungs going in and out. We can feel the heart. So we have some tactile sense of internal things. So, and we know that the mind can fix itself on anything. So now, if everybody stops and thinks, what do my feet feel like? You can feel your feet touching the ground, right? Before that, you weren't feeling your feet touching the ground because the mind was focused on something else. So we can do this. This, I think, is one of the reasons, whether they do it consciously or unconsciously, why this type of meditation, watching the breath, is helpful. Because watching the breath, it also centers the mind with heart center. Now, we have to understand we're not talking really about the physical heart, even though this beating of the heart gives some feeling of emotion and love and everything. We're not talking about the physical heart. And ultimately, we're not even talking about that space within the heart. Meditating within the heart is meditating deep within the mind. Deep within the mind means deep within the self, that we're entering into the depths of this ocean of Satchidananda. We should try to have that type of feeling. Now, from a practical point of view, another question comes up very often. A confusion comes up. How do I picture the Ishtadevata within the heart? Facing outward? Facing inward? How do I picture myself? If it's facing outward, how am I face to face? This question comes up. Yeah. And different ways of understanding it, of course. We've all seen the image of Hanuman tearing his chest open, and Rama, Sita, they're facing outward. So kind of an odd thing to think that they're facing the opposite direction. Yeah. So how do we see them? Do we turn their head over and they're upside down, or what do we do? Now, the fallacy in this thinking is that here we're meditating, we're identified with the physical body. We have to forget that. I also have to enter into the cave of the heart as the spirit form. Then the cave is also the cave of the heart, or whatever it is, lotus of the heart, is also not this physical body. I have to get rid of that. And the object of meditation is also not really these avatars sitting there in his room, something like that. So it becomes spirit, worshiping spirit. There's a small Sanskrit saying that says, Devo Bhutva Devam Yajet, that one should worship God after becoming God. So if we want to meditate on that divine presence within the heart, we also have to become divine. We also have to feel that very subtle manifestation of spirit that we call the Ishta Devata, and that very subtle manifestation of spirit that I call this Jivatman, myself, that they're there, and then we can get rid of this problem. The most important thing is that we feel we're face to face, that we're face to face with our chosen ideal. However we understand it, very often we're told, picture sitting on the lotus. Yeah, I like this idea. I like to picture Sri Ramakrishna sitting in his room on his bed. So entering into the heart means walking into his room for me. I like this idea. So, but we have to think of ourselves as spirit, get rid of this idea that as this physical person, then it's a problem. How do I see within my heart? My eyes are facing this way and everything. But the time of meditation, and ultimately we have to forget this body completely. And it's just the devotee and God face to face. So this is that idea of desha. And even for the jnani, this is another important point. In the Upanishads, this heart center is considered the dwelling place of Brahman. Yeah, this Brahmapura we have in this idea of the guha, the cave of Brahman, always within the heart center. And Ramana Maharshi, he makes a very nice point. He says, if you point to yourself, that somebody asks, who are you? We say, we point here. We don't say, I am so-and-so. Huh? We point here. So our sense of self-identification is also within this heart center. So we're also utilizing some tactile things. So what we're doing is we're tying up the senses. We're tying up the senses, which are normally going outward. So by this visualization process, then we're forgetful of everything outside. Even repeating this mantra internally, we'll find that external noise becomes like just white noise. It will just go into the background. And if we're centered in the heart, sitting for meditation, the aches and pains in the body, they'll also fall in the background a little bit. It doesn't always work, but anyhow. So these are some of the different ways that we can take the senses and turn them inward and utilize them, and this also prevents things from going outward. And then ultimately, we forget that we're even there. This is the next stage of meditation, where only the Ishta Devata is there. I completely forget myself, that I'm there, and yes, that form is there. Even Sri Ramakrishna used to say, sometimes I look within, I see there are two. Mother is there and her child is there. That means me. And other times I see mother alone is there. Yeah. So this is all the entrance. The entrance into deep meditation involves all of these so-called external things. We make use of name and form. We make use of this physical body, picturing certain things, in order to go deeper and deeper and deeper, so that it's only us as spirit and the Ishta Devata spirit, and then even then, through that love and devotion, we become forgetful of ourselves, and then God alone dwelling within, we can have that type of experience. Now remember, all of this is very much opposed to this idea that it's just a mental exercise. We're really making contact with that divine reality within at the time of meditation. Swamiji says in one place, meditation is the only time when we can really be who we really are. We can really feel that we're spirit at that time of meditation. So these are very, 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 very helpful things. Now I want to go back just to one thing, that what do we do with if we really find that we simply cannot do this visualization, that we try as hard as we can, something very vague may come up, may disappear and everything. What do we do at that time? Is there any other type of remedy for that? Yeah. we'll get to that tomorrow. There's Lila Dhyana. Now, I'm getting to something very, very practical that we're usually not told to do. But I've heard Swami Swananji tell some people that, yeah, if you really can't do this visualization at all, open your eyes. Look at the picture. Yeah, open your eyes and look at the picture. It's not really, technically, we won't say it's real meditation because we're using the senses, the mind is going outward, but it's far better than just having the mind completely out of our control and wandering. Now, I want to read something because I just read it the other day. This is from Swami Atmajnanananda. I'm going to read it in Bengali first, then I'll translate it. So don't mind if you don't know Bengali. Yeah. But the Bengali is very sweet. He's talking to a young brahmachari. And he says, Toke oto chokhu buje bose thakte hobe na. Thakur ghore jokhon bosbi, tokhon chok buje bosbi keno. Che thakbi ঠাকুরের দিকে, মনে করবি ঠাকুর স্বয়ং বসে আছেন। একদিন ঠাকুর দক্ষিণেশ্বরে ছোট ঘরে আছেন। ব্রাহ্ম সমাজের কয়েকজন ভক্ত বসে আছেন। তিনি কত রকম উপদেশ দিচ্ছেন। তারা শুনছেন আর মাঝে মাঝে চোখ বুঝছেন। সেই সময় ঠাকুর তাঁদের বললেন, ও গো, তোমরা চোখ বুঝে কি দেখছো? আমি তখন তাঁর কথা বুঝতে পারিনি। পরে বুঝলাম যে স্বয়ং অবতার পুরুষ এসেছেন, তাঁকে প্রাণ ভরে দেখে নয়ন সার্থক করো। স্বয়ং ভগবান তোমার কাছে, আর তুমি চোখ বুঝে কি ভাবছো? এই কথা স্বামীজিকে বলি, তিনি শুনে ভারী খুশি। So this says that he's saying to this young brahmachari that, why do you come and sit there with your eyes closed? Now, this is very unusual. I'm not suggesting that. Yeah, don't come out and say, oh, the Swami said we should meditate with eyes open. No, don't reach that conclusion. But there are cases, yeah, there are cases, or even occasionally open the eyes. Anyhow, so he goes on. Yeah, you'll sit in a Thakur, you'll sit in the shrine room. Why will you sit there with your eyes closed? That better to look at the picture of Sri Ramakrishna and feel that you're in front of God himself, the Lord himself. Then he says, one day, Thakur was in his room in Dakshineshwar. Members of the Brahmo Samaj were there. He's giving them all sorts of instructions. They're listening, and every once in a while, they're closing their eyes, as if in meditation. So then, at that time, Thakur said to them, oh, well, what are you saying with your eyes closed? And then the Swami Atmajnananda, he says, I couldn't understand his words then. Later I understood. Here they're sitting in front of the God in human form, this Avatar Purush. And why not fill your heart with the vision of him? Then he says, yeah, and Noyan Sarthok Karo. Yeah, make the purpose of even seeing, let that be fulfilled. Very interesting way of putting it. Then he says that I told this to Swamiji, and he was extremely happy to hear this. So, anyhow, I know that this is not standard advice, and we shouldn't give up so easily. But sometimes just go to the shrine, whatever the object of your worship is. Sit there with eyes open, and feel the love emanating and everything. One way of coming up with some alternative. If we get too frustrated, that we really we just see darkness, we can't visualize things and everything. So, the point that I'm trying to get with this utilization of the senses and with the drawing the mind, this goes to the two elements of meditation that we read about in Ashtanga Yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, that there are four of the stages or the limbs of yoga that deal with preliminary things and four that deal with meditation. So we have this pratyahara and dharana, these two things, and then dhyana and then samadhi. So pratyahara is withdrawing the mind from the senses and and trying to take it inward. And dharana is fixing the mind on something inward. Now, when Swamiji wrote his Raja Yoga, I noticed a very curious thing, that pratyahara and dharana are this one chapter, dhyana another chapter, and samadhi another chapter. So he combines the two. And I think it's very helpful to understand that we can't do one without the other. That the only way to pull the mind from this outgoing tendency is to fix it on something internal. So whether or not we're successful in keeping the mind very still and focused, we'll find that we've been forgetful of everything external. This is a very nice idea. If we sit, suppose we sit for a half hour in meditation, we feel that, no, mind was wandering, this and that, but I was really trying everything. When we open our eyes and we say, oh, that last half hour, I really forgot I was sitting in the room here. We get some understanding of ourselves as something other than this physical body. There's some sense of that. And we start to understand also that we can withdraw the mind from external things only if we can focus it on that internal thing. Now, the problem with focusing on something internal is that there has to be a great sense of attraction, akarshana. There has to be a deep pull from within. So we find, and with this practice of meditation, that two things are specifically mentioned by Sri Krishna in Gita, and then the third thing is added by Sri Ramakrishna. That Arjuna asked the question that he says, I find it easier to control the wind than to control the mind. That it seems to be an impossible task. And we all know this. To control the mind, it'll go all over, especially if we're not in the proper mood. That we sit down, the mind's a little disturbed, it'll go all over the place. Nobody has such great control over the mind that they can just place it wherever they want to. I won't say nobody, but in general, no ordinary person. Yeah. The advice that Sri Krishna gives to Arjuna is, number one, abhyasa. That means don't give up. Keep trying. That each time it wanders away, pull it back. And we'll find that it'll get trained up a little bit. Like a dog that keeps pulling, wants to go in a direction. Each time you pull it back, tendency to go away is a little bit less. So abhyasa. And then he says vairagya. Now, vairagya, dispassion. That means that we don't care so much for all of these things that pull the mind away. That we have to develop some spirit of detachment, that we don't care so much for enjoyments and pleasures and sense pleasure and things like that. Now, Sri Ramakrishna says that that by itself will not be enough. And it may be just some escapist, some defeatist type of thing. I don't care for the world, this vairagya, that I've had enough, that it doesn't please me anymore. He says we have to add anuraga, that there has to be something positive to pulling the mind. And if we can increase the love that we have for our Ishtadevata, for whatever aspect of God or image of God that we like, if we can increase that longing for realization, that love, then the mind will easily go there. And vairagya becomes some natural type of thing. There's a conversation that takes place between Sri Ramakrishna and Keshav Chandrasen of the Brahmo Samaj. Other Brahmos are there also. He said, I know that you don't like this Radha Krishna stuff. You don't really believe in the gods and goddesses and these Puranic stories. It's okay. You don't have to believe that these things really took place or anything like that. But try to appreciate, even if it's just literature, try to appreciate this longing that Radha had to have union with Krishna. Try to emulate that. Try to, he uses this term arop kora. Try to almost superimpose that on your mindset. Yeah. That, and he says, "Ashray kote habe." You have to ground your spiritual life in this type of relationship that allows for this feeling of love and longing for union. So that becomes the bedrock, the ground of a relation. And for the devotional people, Jnanis, they may have their own way of understanding it, but he emphasizes this idea of a relationship. So if, and this is something that I appreciate the Vaishnava tradition very much. They immerse themselves in the study of Bhagavata. They immerse themselves in the thought of the baby Krishna, and every moment they're waking him and bathing him and feeding him and changing him and everything. So they sit for meditation, the mind will go there. Yeah. So we have to fill the mind with this thought of the divine. Then the mind will go there at the time of meditation. And if we find that this visualization process is something difficult, we shouldn't worry too much. We understand it's a natural type of thing. The mind doesn't want to easily do that. It's just not the nature of the mind to be able to visualize things like that. Now, one other interesting point that I find, that we're talking about if we fix the somehow the mind on one part of the body, we're not thinking about another part of the body. If we're hearing things internally, we're not hearing external things. Now with the japa, if the mind is fully concentrated on the mantra, fully concentrated, we'll find that it's impossible for the mind to think of anything else, because the mind thinks in words. Mantra is also in words. We find when the mind is wandering away and different thoughts come into the mind, the mantra may be going on, but we're not focused on it. Here's another experiment. Sometimes close your eyes and just concentrate fully each syllable of the mantra and see if it's possible to even think of some other thought. Because thought is in words. And we may have some other images and feelings and things, but this is another way that we eliminate this outgoing tendency of the mind. Because even thinking thoughts is an outgoing tendency of the mind. It's not always just perceptual things, external things that come through the senses that way. So we have a little time. I'm going to stop. So this is Nama, Rupa, and Desha. So we repeat the name. We try to visualize the form as well as we can. We try to feel the living presence of the divine within our hearts. We also try to enter there deeply within the heart and have some type of experience. Feel that we're, at the time of meditation, feel that we're in communion with the divine. Communion with the divine. We'll get to this Leela Dhyana a little bit. Yeah, or feel that we've actually, we've gone to Sri Ramakrishna's room, we've gone to Vrindavan, we've gone wherever it is, and that we're in the actual presence at that time. I'm going to stop here with another quote from Swami Atmajnanananda on that same idea. How many people can achieve real meditation? Holy Mother also used to say, is meditation a simple thing? They are truly blessed who can realize that state for even a very brief period of time. This is very important. That we shouldn't lose hope. We should really feel that if we sit for an hour and 2 minutes, mind gathers together, and we feel, yes, really, for that moment, I felt I was in the presence of the divine, I forgot everything else. It's a successful meditation. Yeah. We have to understand that this idea of oil poured from one vessel into another, that steady flow of meditation, this is only in some very high mystical state. It won't happen in ordinary meditation. So he says, how many people can achieve real meditation? Holy Mother also used to say, is meditation a simple thing? They are truly blessed who can realize that state for even a very brief period of time. But the Lord is pleased if he sees that we continue to make the attempt. I once said to one of our Swamis that I have trouble visualizing. Is it okay if I simply feel the presence of the Ishtadeva? He said, don't make it too easy on yourself. Yeah, keep trying. Yeah. Therefore, we should not give up. On the other hand, If we force things too much, the mind often rebels. Otherwise, this is the royal path, meditation, and nothing else. So this is Swami Madhavanandaji. Okay, so we have a little time for some questions. Shopna, it's okay? Questions? Okay. Yes. Uh, no, that he in one chapter heading is pratyahara and dharana. He treats them together. It's almost as if they're one thing. Whereas dhyana and samadhi, of course, they're all related. But I take it from the what I learned from that, or what I gleaned from that, is that this pratyahara and dharana can't be practiced separately. And the fact that he puts it together, and these were actual different talks that he gave that got put together into his Raja Yoga. This is in the introductory part of it, that he treats them as almost inseparable. So that was the only point that I was trying to make. That if we want to withdraw the mind, there has to be something that we can focus on inwardly in order for the mind to keep going outward. If we simply say, I don't want to hear things, I don't want to see things, and we don't have anything to replace it with, some internal thing, we won't be able to do it. Yeah, or it'll be difficult. Yeah. Yes.
Swamiji, for those who haven't taken the mantra diksha, could you describe how Namarupa diksha might be different or distinct?
If they have some devotion to a particular avatar or aspect of God or whatever, and if they use mantra, then it's the same. It's the same whether they receive it formally or whether they do it on their own. There'll be, of course, a difference, and there'll be many distinctions that we can make. The receiving through from hearing the mantra from the guru, it gives it some very special, precious power and everything, and we have a greater faith. Many differences, but otherwise, in terms of meditation, it'll be the same thing. If they're repeating a mantra, if they don't use a mantra, then either it's a very discursive type of meditation. Who am I? What is the nature of the self? This and that. That's a completely different type of thing. Or if they're using some symbolic type of thing, trying to picture the vast ocean or the sky, something like that, then a little bit of visualization is there. But if they're not repeating mantra, then this name doesn't come in. And if they're not visualizing, then form doesn't come in. So there are meditations that won't utilize all of this. This is what we can call mantra meditation. Meditation with the help of a mantra that will always have the Ishta Devata. And so that'll include name and form generally. Now there can be types of meditation where there's no form, but there's some qualities, divine qualities. Many Western religions will have this type of idea that they won't want to think of God with any type of form, but they'll try to think of God as a loving type of God. So we can have, say, there's very beautiful Sufi poems where God is addressed as the beloved, but no talk of any particular form, but just the feeling that the lover has for the beloved will fill the mind, something like that. And then there are other traditions. There's some mystical Judaism, Jewish traditions where some image can be of God sitting on a throne, some symbolic type of thing, at the same time sticking very much to the idea that God is formless. So there are different traditions, different ways of doing things. And then there are meditations that have absolutely nothing to do with God. You're watching the breath and practicing mindfulness, and or the real jnani type of meditation. And just I'm the witness. Whatever comes before my mind doesn't belong to me. I'm just the observer of everything. Yeah. So different. Not every meditation will involve name and form. Yeah. On the mantra. Yeah. everyone is a little, see, this mantra also can kind of go into the background a little bit. And uh, there's, uh, there's a little play that takes place in the mind between repeating the mantra and listening to the mantra. Yeah. At some point, we may feel that it's going on its own spontaneously. And even a meditation is going on, and I'm the witness. I'm observing the mind meditating. See, no matter how strictly we stick to these instructions that we get, repeat the mantra and visualize that, the mind will wander. And there's no harm if the mind wanders within some spiritual space. It can be Lila Dhyana, that'll be tomorrow, or it can be this observation of what's taking place within the mind, observing the way the mind works, observing ourselves as the witness of everything. We're feeling that God Himself is the one who's watching us while we're meditating. Different ways of doing things. We can meditate on Swami Krishna and try to feel what it's like for Him to meditate. Like, why not? That can be a type of meditation. Let me try to feel what it would be like for Holy Mother to meditate. What it would be like to feel that love that Holy Mother feels for everyone. That can be a type of meditation. So we don't want to deviate too much from instructions we get at the time of meditation, and we also don't want to restrict ourselves. Allow the mind to wander a little bit around these very holy types of thoughts and helpful types, and we'll get insights at the time of meditation. It's not just a concentration thing. For the jnani especially, we're trying to get an insight into the real nature of the self. Yeah. Or to feel, for the devotee to really feel that tie of love that we have, to feel the beauty of the personality of these divine personalities. Yeah. It helps, of course. If that feeling of love is there, then then it'll be much easier, of course. Just think of grandmother and grandchildren. So the grand does she have to work to think about the grandchild? Yeah, it's a very natural type of thing. This is why if we can immerse ourselves in reading the Gospel of Swami Krishna or whatever it is, Bhagavata, Ramayana, whatever our tradition is, then it'll be very helpful for the mind. Yes.
Whenever we talk about meditation and japa,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it always better to stop thinking about preparation for the meditation and holding a particular time? Say,
Yes. Okay, now you'll remember that kala is one of the things. So we'll do that next time. Time. Yes, that's very important. Yeah, there are many other aspects of meditation. Actually, preparation for meditation is most important. If the mind is not prepared for it, yeah. Well, I'll discuss these things a little bit in the next session. But yes, I gave a whole series of talks on before we sit for meditation. There's a very beautiful. It's an article. It was actually a lecture given by Swami Atmajnanananda. There's a booklet, Meditation by the Monks of the Ramakrishna Order. Yes, you know that book. And he has one before we sit for meditation. And it goes into all of that, how to prepare the mind and everything. Whole lifetime is a preparation for meditation. Whole mind, if the whole mind can be, if we can repeat the mantra all day long, keep part of the mind fixed on the divine play, all of these things, and of course lead a very good, pure, ethical life, and be loving people as far as possible, then the mind will much more easily sit quietly in meditation. If we can eliminate all frustrations, anxieties in life, make our life very simple, it's helpful for meditation. Lead a life of moderation. These things are all very important. Do some spiritual reading before we sit for meditation. I like that. In the morning, I get up early and I sit with a cup of tea and read for 15 minutes or so. Inspiring types of things. Yeah. And then the mind gets in a mood. So, yeah, and Swami Brahmananda, he says after meditation also, don't get up so fast. Let that mood kind of sink in a little bit. And let part of the mind remain with this meditative feeling throughout the day. Yeah. So yeah, of course, that's a very, very important point. Very important. Yeah, we can't do whatever we want during the day and then expect the mind to become very quiet and a perfect devotee when we sit for meditation. Yeah, meditation comes out of life. Yeah, all the thoughts we think during the day, what we do during the day. That's why a little bit of word puja, uh, listening to talks, the spiritual, uh, listening to spiritual bhajans and things like that. These are all helpful, very helpful. Yes.
Is counting through the beats,
Yes.
is it advisable, or you said that it can be it can be changed to setting a time period, like 20 minutes or 1 hour.
Yes.
That is another way of doing counting. Basically, it's counting, but not
Yes.
really counting.
See, those who use mala, it becomes a very spiritual thing. They'll put it in their hands and the mind will get calm. It becomes it's a very sacred thing. If we touch the mala of the Guru, how blessed we feel. The name of God has been chanted on it. If not everyone has that feeling, some people it may be a distraction. Now, Holy Mother emphasizes counting on the hands, on the fingers. Yeah. So sometimes we'll be told at least one round count on your fingers. And then if you like the mala, you can do it. So if it's a distraction, it's not necessary. But for many people, it's very helpful. It becomes a very sacred type of thing. The second you put it in your hands, you feel that, yeah. And keep it in a safe place. Don't touch it to the ground. Don't let other people touch it. Yeah, keep it above the waist. Yeah, there are all sorts of things. Now, the one thing that I've been told, Swami Swananji used to say this very often. Don't let the mala go hungry. Don't let it fast. If you start using the mala, don't do it every once in a while. Do it every day. Yeah. You have the respect for the mala that way and everything. Otherwise, we can be repeating without it. But if that's our custom and we want it to be something sacred, then we have to give it its due that way. Yeah.
Special kind made of Rudraksha, that
Traditions are different. The Vaishnava tradition, they'll do tulsi wood. Yeah, yeah. The Tantric Shaiva tradition, it'll be Rudraksha. Very often at the time of meditation, either Guru will give it or we can ask the Guru, yeah, you please bless it. And then let the Guru do some japa with that mala. And then we really feel something very blessed. Yeah. So I like this idea that the mala is something very tangible, that we can really, some psychological effect, but we can really feel that the name of God is somehow has entered into each bead. Uh, yeah, something special about it. Yes, yes, of course, of course. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It shouldn't be thought of as just like a counter, like we have Fitbits and things like that. How many steps that you've gone and everything. That just to take care of it. Yeah, we should really feel that. As I say, the Swami Shraddhanandaji is very beautiful. Each mala that we're doing, we're participating in this whole, yeah, the whole universe. That think of the moon going around the earth, going around the sun, is God doing his the japa with his mala, making everything go around like that. Very poetic idea. Very poetic idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Swapna, we close then? Okay, yeah, yeah.
we went to the first Unitarian Universalist Church at 200 times. So please join us there. We will be doing the talk on Swami Vivekananda. What they do is every month they choose a person, either a spiritual leader or an activist. So they chose Swami Vivekananda and they approached us to do it. In fact, they do it many times. They have the kickoff day and kickoff talk, and then all through the month, I think they follow a particular book. In this case, they're following by Swami Vivekananda. As many, they have it, I think, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a lot of days in the week in the evening. So they have sent us the timetable or the schedule and had asked us that please choose as many days as you can. So only 2 days were chosen during the week. One day apart from what more. 2 more days, 9 and 16, both are Thursdays, from 6:30 to 9:30. There will be a workshop from us. That will be done by Swami Atmajnanananda. He will be doing it over there. Again, 6:30 to 8:30. So those of you who can come, please do join. They would love it. So that is the thing, and then only other information is that Swami Atmajnananda is coming back on the 7th, which is next Tuesday. And this time he'll be staying till the 26th of this month, May. And Swami Sarvadevananda will be coming from 13th to the 15th. And we will have a general body. The invitation will go out on the 5th for all members. Because we have set it 10 days before. He will be giving personal spiritual private instruction. And those of you who know what it is, I'm not supposed to say the word.
No, you can give initiation.
Yes, initiation. I can say initiation.
I said it.
Oh, oh, I will. Like initiation. Because I have mentioned it once and so he immediately called back and yeah, it's not wrong. So, so those of you who are interested in getting well, oh, okay. So they you can contact me and because there's a little bit of things to be done. So that will be on the 15th in the morning. So basically, this is for the month of May. And she's coming in June from 2nd to 6th. And third period, she's coming 5th, 6th, and 7th. July. So these are, and our Durga Puja, if you want to mark your calendar, it will be Saturday, 5th of October. And this time it will be in the morning. We will be back at 2 o'clock. So Maharaj, please, we have dinner now. Please all of you, please join us.